We now have another presentation, and we're going to get started on presidential impeachment. And you will see in your program that Mr. Sudeok Jang is a lawyer based out of Los Angeles. And he has prepared remarks that, for me, as I've worked with him to get them ready, were just absolutely fascinating. And I think he helps illuminate some of the things that are wrong with how things happen to President Park. So if you give him your undivided attention, he will help all of us understand the nuances and subtleties of some of the things that happened in Korea over the impeachment process. Mr. Jang?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am from California. Unlike Korean commentators who came all the way, and I feel very friendly with the Hawaiians because I've been here many times for my vacation. And relax this time because this topic will be short, however, it will be difficult to understand if you really don't focus it because it has legalese and it has logical process that you can miss if you miss just one word. And before doing that, I would like to explain to you a little bit about, would you start showing? Before I start, I will explain to you what our organization, which is a co-sponsor this time of the symposium. I have actually established and am still establishing it beginning last winter time. After I watched myself the rallies in Korea of both candlelight rally and also the taegukgi, which means national flag mob. And I witnessed all this mob democracy on both sides for several months. And finally, until the Constitutional Court rendered a very strange, ununderstandable judgment and sentence in March 10. And then I came back home, trying to forgetting all those turmoils and harsh winter winds and all this. But all of a sudden, my wife said, hey, why is the president discharged of duties? I don't see how the impeachment was quoted or accepted. Then I woke up all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, you're right. There must be something wrong. So then I had to read this strange sentence in bulky volume, of course, and then realized that something went wrong seriously and people did not notice it. Okay, but this organization, again, is meant to be working on the reformation of the judicial system, not only in Korea, but in other countries as well in the future, if such issue come to arise in each country. As a believer of constitutional principles of the US Constitution, of course, I'm a lawyer, therefore, I took that as my living mode or principles of myself. And if you see in my website, for example, I have emphasized the freedom, the equality, and fairness, and transparency as the constitutional principles that I carry on in the business as well as in my personal life. So if you have any interest in discussing all these issues in the future, please give me a call. And for the purpose of this not a lecture, but a little bit of a presentation, I have brought to you some of the letters that I sent to the Constitutional Court of Korea, trying to enlightening them to the wrongdoings that they are doing. But of course, they did not listen to me because they overruled it as foreign lawyers' comment. However, if you are interested in seeing those, whenever I comment on it, you can always email me, then I will send you those letters as it was written at the time. And for doing that, I guess my assistants will spread out the sheet, a simple sheet for writing down your telephone number and email addresses, and you can use those. And also, if any of you would like to have my business card, I set it up at the table of my place. So now let's go to the second page, please. Okay, that's the name of the firm that we established this time. And I have been practicing in California about 40 years, on and off. And I wouldn't propose myself as so patriotic because I have already moved to California and live here. It's hard to say that to the Koreans, for example. But I'm glad to see many Korean travelers here to come just for this purpose. Thanks a lot. Okay, next. The top word, taegeukgi, is the name of the flag, national flag, and that's symbolic of rightist people in Korea. And that has been the national flag since almost 100 years ago. But that symbol carries the spirit of Koreans, relating back to 5,000 years ago to Dangun, which is the great, our national father, all the way up. But in any event, what I was witnessing this winter time, and actually up until now, is that loyalty or faith is very important in these situations. And loyalty could mean, parents. You respect your parents and follow through their gospels or their words. Just like that, ancestors and king, queen. When you see the kings of the dynasties all along, you see many people who are betraying, many people who are very loyal, and to a cause sometimes, or to friends, or to resolution. You have made a resolution every year in the first day of the year, and then follow through. Sometimes you miss it, sometimes you forget it, sometimes you betray without knowing yourself. So I want to emphasize that loyalty is such a valuable stuff that we should cherish in my mind in all these national and also personal affairs. And I have actually invited a man from Korea who used to be the first national flag man who demonstrated his objection to the move to the impeachment. And I just introduced him, letting him stand up, and you give him applause because he is the one that I found the most loyal person to the President Park. Would you stand up, Mr. Jang, and just bow to the people? And what this man did in the past just beginning last, November up to now, is to stand in the front gate of the penitentiary that President Park is inmated, in other words, imprisoned. And he bows to her every morning, saying, "Good morning, President, please live long and save this country again." And in the evening too, he did that all along up to now. And I thought perhaps this type of spirit should be planted in every heart of Koreans so that someday we will achieve what he is longing for. What he is hoping for. And so I sometimes communicate with him, give him the right words, legal terms, to be able to campaign his will. And let's go. Okay. Now, this is a question that I posed to you. That means already that the impeachment was not proper because it did not have right cause of action. Now, the ones who know the legal jargons, you will know what cause of action means. That is the fundamental claim that you are raising in a legal case, right? Unless you have that, the courts will not be able to proceed to discuss, decide, or pronounce any sentence. So it's important that you have stated causes of action all right. What I meant here is that the impeachment itself was without proper cause of action. Now let's see how it went. Next. Okay, an impeachment is initiated when the National Assembly builds a case with causes of action. In Korea, National Assembly is the only organization that can raise the issue of impeachment. In the States, you have the lower Congress who raises this issue, and the Senate will decide on whether they will take it or not. But in Korea, the National Assembly raises it as an impeachment, and then they petition to the Constitutional Court. Now, cause of action should clearly indicate what the president did and why impeachment is the remedy. The National Assembly failed to state the sufficient causes of action, and there was no jurisdiction. This means that Section 84 of the Constitution says you cannot indict president without domestic war or foreign invasion. So right away, substantively speaking, they have violated the Constitution by raising the impeachment against this Section 84. Okay, next. Now, there were 13 causes of action, as many as 13 causes of action initially that were proposed. And then they wanted to reduce it to 6 eventually. Now, there was a legality issue or appropriateness issue when they did that, and I sent second letter at the time that they should not accept the amendment to the first complaint. And none of these 13 causes of action were properly stated and appeared to have not carefully reviewed by the council. This means that when I read those complaints, it looks like it's prepared by a layperson, not a lawyer, because they included a lot of conjectures and rumors and false news, all sorts of outside, something that is not really legally focused. And each purported cause of action is written with innuendo, conjecture, impressions, abuse, presumptions, prejudice, and hearsay, of course. So, substantively, the cause of action was wrong. It defies common sense, standard procedures, and forms. Looks like a layperson product. Next. So it lacks clearly stating, supporting causes of action. Impeachment process should have been rejected, therefore, by the court on those grounds alone in the beginning. However, they did not do it. A National Assembly petitioner attempted to amend the causes of action after the fact, so that should have been led to immediate withdrawal or dismissal. And the process is laid out in the Constitution and must be meticulously followed. the procedure for amending any such causes of action should be, they are laid out in the Constitution itself, so they should follow up, but they did not follow that procedure. That's my judgment and many other lawyers' judgment. Next. Now, at the end of the day, which is March 10, there was a court order. The court failed to state all 6 causes of action. This means that the judges made decisions on each of the causes of action to say whether there is sufficient cause of action or not. And they this one must be amended by somebody by itself. It's not the court failed to state. The National Assembly failed to state all 6 causes of action, meaning that they have analyzed each cause of action, 6 causes of action, and did not quote or approve any of them. Instead, what they said is, hey, this cause of action is insufficient, and this cause of action is improper. This cause of action does not make sense, like that. So all 6 causes of action, they denied. That means, in fact, it is all dismissed. That's the language they should have used. They should have said, we dismiss because the causes of action were not stated properly. However, they didn't say that. You know why? They were pressured. The judges were pressured by outside factors. For example, the candlelight demonstrators and people supporting those activities, they demanded them to punish the president by discharging immediately. Now, so what they did is, instead of saying dismissed, they just let go and did not mention whether they dismiss or even quote or accept. They just skipped that process and went to the next step, saying that, oh, we have, however, separate cause of action we created. And we cannot, we think the president was not intending to honor the Constitution, lacks the desire to honor the Constitution. That's what they relied on as the cause for discharge. Cause for discharge, not for impeachment. Okay? So they announced, okay, regardless of what we said about this impeachment causes of action, we think the president is lacking desire to intend to abide by the Constitution, therefore we fire her. That was the sentence. You will see in the records and also in the videos, all sorts of resources, you will see that they did that. The lady judge who made the announcement on that day of the order of the judgment, she clearly said that. But since people were so annoyed and so, they expected, all of them expected, most of them expected that the court would render judgment against her. In other words, they would quote the impeachment as the National Assembly submitted. So they naturally believed, oh, she's fired, therefore it must have been, the impeachment must have been quoted or accepted. Virtually, I would say 90% of the people in Korea believed that way. Now, if they knew the law enough, or they were experienced enough legal practice, then they would readily figure out something must be wrong. But they did not believe that the government or the courts would render such a unreasonable judgment. So they believed that, oh, okay, Constitutional Court must have rendered good decision. Too bad, President is ousted now. Now, that sort of deceived state of mind was carried on so that the prosecutors then say, okay, now president is not a president, therefore we are free to indict her, to put her in the prison, and they went ahead and did it. And what about other sectors? All other sectors, the National Assembly, they were planning all this themselves, so they welcomed the decision making. And the press, the TVs, and the newspapers, they took it as a true too, because they have been shouting at it, shouting for it, and they have been advocating that situation anyway. And for that, that's what we call Pressgate, and that will be explained by next panelist soon. In any event, so they sentenced removal from office, and the people heard the court use its own cause of action and adjudicate that cause and vote to impeach. Thus, for all intents and purposes, the president was, quote, impeached, unquote. And of course, this is without due process. Okay? And this part is very important for you to understand, because many people say, oh, president was impeached, therefore there can be, president is out of office, and what is that? The national, what is 선거? Election. And national election is due naturally. But since I know, as a lawyer, that to make the judgment and sentence was wrong, illegal, the election process should not be installed at all. But since the December 9, 2016, when the impeachment was first voted by the National Assembly, after that instance, the Prime Minister announced the interim or premature election to set up at May 9. And under the law, if he has to be followed, and if he was loyal, as I said earlier, then he should have, as of March 10, he should have reinstated the president, right? You may raise this issue later as a question, but as I see it, as a lawyer who practiced 40 years in California, I could readily see that that's against the law. So people say, oh, Prime Minister was very loyal and very nice. I don't agree to that. He should have, as a public servant, did his job. He should have done the job right to reinstate her and to stop the prosecutors to arrest President Park. But nevertheless, the event occurred so that President Park was arrested from her home and was put in Seoul Central Penitentiary. And that's where he, the man that I just introduced to you, is working day and night from that time on without sleeping at home. He sleeps there. Anyway, so thus, all intents and purposes, the president was impeached, quote unquote. But in fact, in legal terms, she was not impeached. She was de facto dismissed. So she should have been reinstated to the president's position. That's the very important fact that I want to introduce to you. Okay, next. Okay, so far I have succinctly, I tried to be succinct, explained to you why the impeachment was gone wrong. I'm not saying there was quotation of impeachment. I'm saying the firing of the president was wrong. Therefore, everything that comes following through that is wrong. Okay? In Korean words, there's a word like first 단추를 잘못 끼면 계속 잘못 낀다는 얘기가 있어요. First button on the top, you screw up, then all the way down, you will have a problem, right? So that's what happened in Korea. Okay, so far, I have explained to you, and if you need my letters that I sent to judges, each judges of this Constitution Court, I will send you by email. Because in there, I explained to them before too late, before they made judgment, I sent to each one of the judges my letter, and also I even put it in the public mode and YouTube, and sent it to them. Many people in the public, they liked those arguments, and they sent to me encouraging letters. But the judges didn't listen to them. Okay? So that's what happened. I may agree to the concept of law subjecting to, or the law is servant of the politics. But now my question to you was, is it really true in every corner of life that people's mind, did you have it says inertia? No? I don't know why these are all changed. Actually, the reason for this, the thing that made the election go through anyway has to do with this too. Even though some people were enlightened already that, the impeachment was wrong, therefore the president is reinstated, and therefore there should not be election at all. But people followed through the election process that's motivated and driven by the leftists because, election is a good thing to do. Anyway, historically we did a lot of the election, and if we can find a good leader from through the election, that's another way of having a good time. So they followed through it. I called it inertia. They were not happy with the situation. However, they have nothing to do to correct the situation. Since the lawyers are not doing it, since the police are not doing it, so they said, okay, well, basically Korean people are still living in the 강구연을, peaceful world. They think peace is all over, right? So they didn't care. So they went to the voting place to ballot to fill in the ballots. Of course, later we found out the ballots were wrong, and procedurally there were many wrongdoings. Now that part will be explained to you by our next speaker. Now, up to now, if you have any questions on this legal process, this may be just like, dry the concept of law. You may not want to enjoy it, but this fact is the driving way. If a legal system defaults or demise, then the whole country will be demised. And the sovereignty cannot be saved unless you have a real good legal system, reasonable and fair legal system. That's why we want to strive here to correct the legal system of Korea for one thing, and in the future for others as well, and have the sovereignties survive. Okay? Thank you for listening to the point.
Mr. Jang brought up some good points, and I have to apologize. It was my mistake. I put the wrong set of slides in the presentations. It's my fault, Mr. Jang. Sorry about that. He taught the staff as we were helping him prepare this fantastic lesson. A lot of what he said, we sat down and walked through his presentation, and he literally taught us a class on the constitutional law process in Korea and how it was violated in this way. And one of the things that he brought out today that I want to emphasize, I'm going to ask him a question as well, is that at every step there was an opportunity for the system to correct itself. But for some reason, the system did not correct itself. And so what I'm going to ask Mr. Jang here is, what do we do today? To go back, or what do we do today, having gone through this process where there are errors?
Okay, hi. All right, very good question. Very intelligent man I have. I've been enjoying his company for many days now. Yes, obviously, the reason why, particularly American public cannot understand what went wrong in Korea is, hey, there's a election process and somebody was chosen as the next president, well, then perhaps you should just follow through with him, or if you have criticism, okay. Still, you don't have to go back to the old days. Many people will think that. But the reason why we cannot tolerate that unjust manner is, as soon Ms. Jang here, who will be a specialist or expert on the press issues, because she was herself announcer of this old-time KBS, she will explain to you how the press made the public blind. Not only make the public blind, they delivered wrong and distorted and fake news to the U.S. and wrongfully from the U.S. to the Korean press too. They were blocked, so they could not understand what's going on while living inside Korea. You could have better understanding, but you were blinded too because they blocked the real truth coming out of it. So at the time, I actually thought it was so serious. I talked to Ms. Jang here to set up the regular TV station, and she did it. You know how she named it? Truth and Justice. That's most important in the journalism and in the legal system. So that's what happened, sir. Too bad. Okay.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Jang? Please stand at the mic and let's hear what your question is, sir. Thank you.
Can you comment on, I don't know if there's, in the impeachment proceeding before the Constitutional Court in South Korea, is there a standard of proof that has to be met before the court can accept the impeachment? Here in the United States, in civil cases, we talk about preponderance of the evidence. In criminal cases, beyond a reasonable doubt. What about in this situation?
In Korea, the standard for impeachment was, it says, in a very loose term, quote, violation of a constitution or law, unquote. So loose, but when we review those statements from the Constitution, which was meant to be not really focused on those issues, but they just made a general statement. We compare that with the US standard. US standard is much higher and much stronger in the sounding itself. It says treason, high crime, treason, bribery, and high crime. Now, these sound much better serious crimes, right? Under those situations, you talk about impeachment. For 2 cases in the US, you finally did not reach impeachment because the standard could not be met. But in Korea, because of this easy language, they thought perhaps for any misdemeanor or easy crimes, still they could impeach the president. So the unpreparedness of the law, I guess that's one reason why she was ousted so easily. Did you understand that? Okay, good. I hope so.
I have another question, please. Mr. Jang, can I ask you a question,
Yes.
please? I guess he didn't listen to me. Oh, can I have a question? Yeah. Mr. Jang, I am with you 1,000% on your legal assessment and definition of the impeachment being null and void from the beginning. We call it ab initio, null and void from the beginning. Now, if the rule of law still exists, and it should exist in South Korea, it's not a barbaric state, what legal process can we impose to reverse it back? Besides political, what legal process can we impose to reverse the sentence of illegal impeachment or illegal discharge to bring her back, bring the state back to the normal state? Do we have any legal system for it?
Yes. Well, being a California U.S. lawyer, I could recommend that perhaps you should use the U.S. standards and decide, sue the court, sue to the court for these violations of all these violations of our laws. Actually, can you put it up again? I just passed that along because it was wrong. It was in the wrong place. But there will be causes of action, about 10 I listed. And first of all, the president should be saved. The way how you do it is, okay, you just passed, right? Anyway, the main cause of action would be unlawful detainment or false imprisonment. In other words, she is in the court erroneously, wrongfully. And in saying that, you have to explain why the impeachment was not right. Okay? And also, there is a terrorism issue and human rights violation issue, presidential immunity, Section 84. I told you that Section 84 says unless president committed the treason or external war, he or she should not be indicted. And due process violation, meaning that substantively as well as procedurally, they did not follow the rule of law in impeaching the president. And also, there's a treason cause of action, rebellion, and civil riots and subversion is another cause of action possible. And the judicial fraud, this is important actually. I told you that they've been deceived to believe that she was rightfully impeached. The concept of that is erroneously implanted to the people's mind by tricky treatment. So that element becomes judicial fraud, so-called. And also, abuse of judicial process is another, cause of action, if it is here in California, for example. And unlawful prosecution was a similar concept, but that means that the prosecutor should not raise any issue against her. Defamation and slander, you can see readily, okay? And she was defamed and slandered. And judgment, of course, this one, judgment should be invalid. Somebody should have brought action against the Constitutional Court saying that, hey, that judgment is invalid. Let's invalidate it, nullify that judgment. Nobody did it, unfortunately. And I could not do it because I'm a foreign lawyer to them. And the sentence can be invalidated, nullified too by 무효소송, so-called 무효소송. And there are many TROs and TPOs to temporarily block the process of the prosecution or the indictment and all this stuff. You can place the cap on it. And of course, finally, if nobody accepts those illegal actions inside Korea, somebody should go to ICJ, means International Court of Justice. ICC is International Criminal Court. And also from time to time, like in World War I and II, you can set up war crime court if the war breaks. Now, I said if. That's the hurdle that we have now. If the war really breaks due to the conduct of that Constitutional Court judgment, perhaps a wise lawyer can raise the issue in the International Court saying that, okay, among the different nations, we have to have set up an international court to make judgment on the war crime. If you remember, Nuremberg, for the First World War, I believe, yeah. That was set up as an ad hoc interim court to deal with the war criminals. So those avenues of legal actions are still available.
Thank you. That was an excellent point. Very creative. Thank you.
Thank you for raising that issue, by the way. I could almost just pass along.
I think they are very crucial in challenging
Oh,
the
yes.
wrong actions against the state,
Yes.
the sovereignty.
You're right.
Thank
And
you.
also, actually, the fact that President Park is undergoing this criminal charges investigation in the court at the moment is an anomaly. It's just a ridiculous thing to do. This will not happen in the civilized country. Because the cause of actions that I raised here could have stopped the whole proceeding in the beginning, right? Why should they subject the innocent president to all sorts of hassles and, they are putting her to the court interrogation for how many hours? 14 hours a day?
And 4 times a week.
4 times a week? There's no such procedure in the whole world, in any court. So this is not really legal proceeding. It is a terrorism. It is a human rights violations. Okay? This is amazing. And I hope American public understands this in-depth story and help us. Thank you.